Okay, can you see my screen? Oof.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so let me know if it gets choppy. I don't know how my internet's going to do, you know.
How you
So
doing? Okay.
hey, everybody. Let's see. All right. Okay. Yeah, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to talk about some web design essentials. Really, what I'm looking to get out of today for you is I'm looking to teach you just like the minimum amount necessary for you to have the biggest impact on your website. So hopefully we will accomplish that. My name is Rob Dudley. I am a digital consultant for a company called KPMG. I should also state that all the opinions and views expressed in this call are purely my own and not that of KPMG's, just in case. Yeah, so I have over 10 years of experience in the website space. I built websites from scratch. I built them using content management systems like WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or Shopify. So I've seen a lot come through, and I've seen a lot of other people's websites, and yeah, so I hope y'all get a lot out of this today. Let me see. Okay, so just so you know, this is going to be more of like a show and tell kind of a presentation rather than a read along with me presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to just jump in and ask. Don't bother interrupting me, or don't worry about interrupting me. Or if you want to post a question in the chat, that's fine too. Okay, so let's get started. So the first concept I want to talk about today is called above the fold. Now, this is a term you'll hear often in the industry. What it refers to is the content of a website that you see before you scroll. So when you land on, for example, right here, the Houston Food Bank, if you land on their website, their homepage, and you don't scroll, this is all you see right here. So you don't see any of the stuff down here. So that makes this part of the web page extra important. And so when you think about where you spend your time and energy on your website, you really ought to spend most of it in this top section. And that's where the most compelling content of your website should be. So the term originally comes from the newspaper industry. So if you imagine like a newspaper being on a stand and you see the top of the front page, that's the only bit of the newspaper you'll see before you pick it up. And so that content on the front page has to be compelling enough for you to pick up the paper and see what else is there. So that's where the term above the fold comes from. And so most of your users, well, pretty much all your users are definitely going to see this part of your website, but a lot of them are not going to see this bottom piece right here. You could have a button down here that says, click me and I'll give you $1,000. And a lot of people would not click it because they're not going to see it. So this is one of the most important concepts to understand. So that's why I wanted to cover it first. And so if you take anything away from this presentation, you know, above the fold, it's an important one. And so we're making websites for people, right, for users. And in order to do this well, it's really important that we understand how they navigate through the websites. A lot of research has been done on this using eye tracking software for users as they use different websites. And this is pretty much the most average thing that happens is when somebody lands on a website, they start at the top left corner, then they move across the top to the right top corner, and then they come diagonally to the bottom left, and then over to the right bottom corner. And if you think about it, it's pretty much like reading, right? You know, left to right, down. But this is typically where the eye gaze goes. And what you'll notice is that a lot of websites cater to this exact thing. So it's called de-scanning. This is the most common one, and you'll see it right here. So even in a for-profit website like 24hourfitness.com, I've added these yellow bars here just so you can see it easier. but you can see how they know that this is how people are viewing their website. And so they have the most, their content is right in that line because they know that's where you're going to look. So you can see the Houston Food Bank does the same exact thing. And then No Kid Hungry also does the same exact thing. And so since we know this about our users, that's what we'll do is we'll make websites that cater to that specific way of looking at it. And as you can see, so they'll have the logo and they'll have a call to action of some kind that calls them to the bottom over here, which is pretty much similar in all of them, that you will have another call to action. So real quick, I'm going to take you through some of the things that you come across during this Z-scan. Like I said, it is in the top portion of your website, which we just discussed is the most important part of the website above the fold. So first thing we'll talk about, and this is pretty minor, not a lot to say. So your logo. So your logo is going to go in the top left or the top center. I recommend the top left. I've only seen it work in the top center a couple of times, like with the Houstonian magazine right here. Now you can have like a secondary logo like the Greater Houston Partnership has in their footer right here, but you can see it's a little bit smaller than their main logo. But yeah, so essentially it'll always be in the top left. That's where people expect to see it. That's where they want to see it. A general rule of thumb when you're making things for people is don't make them think. So they expect to see the logo there. That's where it should be. Okay, so the next thing after the logo, we have the main navigation or the menu. So another rule of thumb for these is I like to have no more than 7 links in the main navigation. And when I say links, I'm only talking about these menu pages right here. I'm not including a donate button or these links up here. But 7 is typically the amount of objects that people can keep track of. And you know, if it's more than that, then it's just going to seem a little overwhelming. And we want this to be as simple and clean as possible. So you can see how the Houston Food Bank, they only have 6 right here before their donate button. No Kid Hungry, they have 4. But the other thing you'll notice, so as I was talking about the Z scanning, if you look at the logo, your eye is just going to come right across over here to the right. And the same thing with this website too. But if you look at giveblood.org's, it kind of doesn't know where to go after you look at the logo. I'm not really sure what's the most important thing right here. I'm sure this button's red and it's big, but I really don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for exactly. And so what you'll do is like your main menu links, you want them to be bigger than everything else. So you can see how the Houston Food Bank does it right here. So these links, they might be somewhat important, but they're not as important as the main ones. So they're smaller, they're not in the main line of sight. And also their social media links are also smaller. And the same thing here for No Kid Hungry. And now for giveblood.org, you know, they have these big links right here for their social media stuff. It's probably not that important. It could probably be a lot smaller and moved off to the side somewhere. They have this big magnifying glass over here taking up a lot of space for some reason. I'm not sure why, but this is kind of a good example of how it doesn't really matter how big an organization is. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll have a great website. You know, Gulf Coast Regional Blood Center, they obviously have locations all over the place, clinics, employees. They have trailers that they have for accepting donations, the mobile donations, but yeah, it's just not that great. So they could do a lot more right here. Does anybody have any questions about anything yet? Okay, cool. So the next thing we'll talk about, after you come through the menu, you'll see so this is called a slider or a jumbotron or a carousel. A lot of people call it a lot of different things. If there's more than one image in it, it's a carousel. or a slider, because there's more than one thing, so it's going to revolve around. If there's just one thing, you can call it a jumbotron. Now, the Houston Food Bank, they have several images, different things that they want to draw attention to in their slider. Now, general rule of thumb for these, you don't want to have more than 3 different slides for your slider, because then, nobody's going to get to the 7th slide probably, or the 8th one. And you just want to make things as simple as possible and really clean. And they should also include your most compelling content. So I wouldn't put something in your slider that is kind of just a nice to know kind of a thing about your organization. I would put things that are kind of a must know. And I would also do it in a way that's very short and concise. So if you think about like an elevator pitch, if you were on an elevator and Jeff Bezos stepped on and you had to tell him in 30 seconds or less what your organization is, who you are, what you're about, what is the fewest amount of words you could use to get your point across. And so I would encourage everybody to definitely sit down, try to write it, what it is that you're about, what your organization does, in as few words as possible. And that might be something you include right here, something short and sweet, so people understand exactly when they come to your website, exactly what you do, without having to think too much about it. So I'm sure this is a given, but you should use high quality images for these sliders. And you should also have a very simple navigation for them. You don't want it to be too complicated. What we'll do is when you look at this stuff, it's very easy to see something and say, man, that looks really nice. I want to use it. But, we don't want to get into a form over function, with these things. The simplicity of use is definitely the most important thing. Like I said, we don't want to make people think. We want everything to be really intuitive and them to find the information they need as fast as possible. Another good idea is to indicate how many slides are actually in your slider. So a lot of times what you'll see, there'll be like some dots down here, like one of them will be highlighted that shows you where you are within like the slide deck. Houston Food Banks doesn't have that. So when you see this, if another slide comes up, you don't really know when you're going to see this one again. So if you wanted to click on that one, you could go to the arrow over here, but that involves you actually doing something. So yeah. And another great idea is to include a call to action in this part of your website. Now, a call to action, or CTA, is when you're literally asking the user to do something and to take action. Now, this can be anything. It can be signing up to receive emails. It can be donating, signing up to host, a toy drive, whatever. And you can see the Houston Food Bank. They really have like 3 call to actions right here. So even in their main navigation, this donate button right here, that's a CTA. You're asking people to donate, making it clear what they can do, and it sticks out. And they also have the sign up to host a food drive right here. And then they have, again, another donate section. And this is just, call to actions are top half of their page. So it's great stuff. And you can see Get Hungry also has the same thing. They have the donate button and a fundraise button right here in their main navigation. And they also have the donate now in their Jumbotron. And just a little blurb about their calls, but you can see what I mean when it comes to the call to actions. So now that we've talked about that stuff, and we've highlighted the importance of the above the fold portion of your website, the top half, a lot of people tend to think, well, that's precious real estate. I better put as much as I can up there, to make sure people see everything that we have or that we're about. But that's a huge mistake. What happens is, it just clutters the page, and the eye doesn't really know what to look at. So people they're just going to look at it real quick and glance over it and move on to something else. So what you want to do is use white space very liberally. Not even just white space, but the idea is really just give your elements on the page room to breathe. So each one stands out and it's clear what it is. You see right here, they have plenty of white space. So what it also does is just highlights the message right here, that you want people to see. And again, you can also do it with this page right here. So obviously they want you to focus on the content of this article. So they're not going to put a bunch of other stuff they're kind of on the side here. So they want to put the main purpose of their website front and center. Now, here are some bad examples of white space. So this is IMDb, Internet Movie Database. So they probably get away with it because I would imagine like 98% of the people who come here, the first thing they click on is the search bar to search for a movie or search for an actor or something like that. But yeah, like if you just came to the home page and you aren't going to search, I mean, there's kind of a lot going on. Like your eye doesn't really know what to look at, so they don't do a great job in leading the user through the content of their page. And again, right here, ultimateguitar.com does the same thing. If you think about the Z-scan that we talked about earlier, when you start at the logo, you come across over here, and then when you come down here, I mean, I don't know what to look at. There's just so much going on. And then you have these ads over here off to the side and up top and over here as well. But I would also think that this is another website that people usually search on. But you get the idea. So the next thing we'll talk about is fonts. So fonts can be broken down into two main categories. There are serif fonts and sans serif fonts. Now, serifs are these little tick marks you see right here on the font. Now, what they do is they lead the user's eye to finish the shape of the letter, so the brain recognizes what letter it is sooner. And so, typically, if you have if you're going to use a serif font, you'd use it for long form content, like if somebody's reading an article or anything like that. Because it's just the easiest for the user to use. Now, then you have the sans serif. Now, obviously, this doesn't have the serif tick marks on it. This font is usually used for headlines, anything that you want to just kind of stand out. You wouldn't use this for long form content. This is a custom font by my company, KPMG. And as you can see, it looks nice, but I mean, can you imagine trying to read a whole article with this font? I probably wouldn't read it for very long. Yeah, okay, and here is an example of what I'm talking about. So this is a blog post by one of my favorite people. His name is Scott Calloway, and he's kind of a thought leader in the business and tech space. And this is a blog post on medium.com, but you can see, if you look at all the fonts from here above, what they all have in common is that they're all sans serif. And so sans serif, it works well for just like a headline or a title, or even for stuff like this. But when it comes to the actual content of the article, you see that they switch to a serif font, which looks much better and it's much easier to read. Okay, and so while we're talking about fonts, this is probably like the simplest thing that can really make the biggest difference when it comes to just how your page looks. So line spacing. So if you're familiar with like Word documents, it's the same thing. Line spacing is just the amount of space in between each line. And so this is the same exact web page. The only difference is that there's different line heights in there. So this one has 26 pixels. This one, I don't think it's 15 pixels, maybe 5 pixels, but you can see how different they look. And this one is just much more pleasing to the eye. And it's just something very simple that you may not know to do, but if you do it, it just makes all the difference to your users. Now, kerning, I only mention this so you're just aware that it exists. Like, I don't know if you'll ever use this, but kerning it refers to the space in between the letters. So this word right here, kerning, there isn't several spaces in between these letters. They're really taking up this much space. So it's just something to be aware of, that you have the ability to change that. So if you have like a content management system like Wix or Squarespace or something like that, and you have a headline that just looks like it's too squished together, look for something related to kerning, and then you can space those letters out, and it'll look much better. And now when it comes to headlines, you're going to want to use big fonts, or big text, so it really stands out. These don't need to be, like we were talking about earlier, they don't need to be serif fonts, because they're just small pieces of content that people aren't going to take a long time to read. So yeah, both these websites, Stripe.com and OneWheel.com, they do a great job using these fonts to really stand out. Like, I mean, this immediately grabs your attention to describe what they do. And I might also add, earlier when we were talking about the 30-second elevator speech, this is probably the fewest amount of words you could use to describe their business. Payments infrastructure for the internet. I mean, it's that simple, that's what it is. Yeah, so they did a great job with that. Now, some tools you can use for fonts. I like to use Google Fonts, and real quick, let me show you. So when you're on Google Fonts website, they have all these fonts for you to experiment with. So you can click on them, and you can see different sizes of it, or even actually, let's see. It's taking a while to load. So you can type anything in, and you can immediately see what it looks like in all these different fonts. And these are differently sorted, or typically sorted by what's trending, what's the most popular right now. Roboto is always popular, and so is Open Sans. Apple uses Open Sans a lot on their website, which makes sense because it's a really clean font. But yeah, so if you're using Wix or anything like that, they probably have a plugin for Google Fonts. And so if you're just trying to have a different font on your website, it doesn't hurt to just come over here and experiment with some stuff, and to just take a look around and see what you might like. And then you can go to Wix or Squarespace and select it. Okay. All right. Okay, so next we'll talk about colors. I don't like to spend a whole lot of time on this particular slide, but this is just important to be aware of, that certain colors evoke certain emotions in the person who sees them, whether they realize they're feeling it or not. And just like, for example, red stands for passion, excitement, and anger. The other thing I'd say about this stuff is, there are exceptions to the rule on all of these. For instance, Heinz's logo is red right here, and maybe they're passionate about ketchup. I don't know. But I wouldn't say that's passion, excitement, or anger, but it makes sense because the ketchup's red, right? And YouTube, yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, all that just to say that, if you have a logo, you like the color, I mean, it's fine. Nobody's going to read too much into it, I don't think. And, but it is common, like if you have like a professional, if you want to be taken more seriously, to have a blue logo or a dark blue. So that I have seen quite a bit. And it does, yeah, for professionalism, security, and formality, maturity, and trustworthiness. Yeah, it definitely has that, evokes that emotion. And something else to know, this mostly, as far as I know, applies to Western culture. So over here, these colors might mean this, but if you have a nonprofit organization that does work elsewhere, for instance, you know, if you're focused on human trafficking in Africa, you might want to look up what colors, like how they feel about colors, what colors signify in their culture before you decide to make it, you know, the main color for your logo or your website or whatever. So just something to keep in mind. Okay. So pretty much every brand, every website has a primary color, and it's pretty obvious in these websites right here. So No Kid Hungry, obviously you'd say that orange is their primary color. I would say that every brand needs probably just one primary color. You don't want to have too much going on. So you can see Calibra right here, they have green, but Greater Houston Partnership and their logo, they actually have a few different shades of blue. And they make it work down here, you know, with the different shades, but most of their content sticks with the same color blue. So you definitely want one primary color, and you want to use it for your call to action buttons like this, like No Kid Hungry does right here, and also Calibra. Now, so this is KPMG, my company. This is their primary colors. So this is the KPMG blue, and you can see how they use it on their website for pretty much everything. So even their logo is KPMG blue, the links in their menu and their navigation is KPMG blue. So are these links right here as well. And even this main slider or Jumbotron, like it kind of has a bluish tint to it. So you can see like they do a really good job of sticking with this branding of the blue color. Now, I want to talk a little bit about colors and try to not make this confusing. But so colors, you can either pick them in RGB, which stands for red, green, blue, or hex codes. And so typically what you'll see is this is an RGB code. All of these are right here. And so when you're looking at this, the first column is red, second one is green, third one's blue. And so this number can be anywhere between 0 and 255. And so what it reflects is the amount of brightness you want that specific color to be in that column. So this is saying, I don't want any red, any green, or any blue. And so of course this is going to be black. And so 127 for all of them, it's going to be medium gray. And now you can see if you turn up the red, green, blue all the way to 255, it's going to be white. This might be kind of hard to tell, but yeah, this is just a white section right here. So once you find a color you like, definitely write down whatever the RGB is for it. And something else you can do is use the hex code, which looks like this. Now it follows the same principle. So these first two numbers are together, and they use, and this is red, and this is green, and this is blue, just the same as the RGB. The only difference though is this will go from 0 to 9, or the letter A to F. And so all zeros is the lowest brightness, and all Fs is the highest brightness. And again, when you're on Wix or something like that, you know, you want to make sure you're using the same color all the time, and that you have like consistent branding across your different platforms. So, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. And so you definitely want to write this color down or save it somewhere and refer back to it anytime you need to use it, because you'll use it all the time, you know, for links and for the call to actions and your logos and things like that. And so right here, you can see, as I just said, this is the red column of the RGB. So you can see red is turned up all the way, and green and blue are both turned down all the way. So of course, this is going to create the brightest red. And then you can see it has the same effect. So blue, or green rather, is turned up all the way. So that's going to be green. And so this is KPMG blue that we were just looking at. So this is the color that they use everywhere. It's always going to be the same color. And I do want to stress that it doesn't matter if you use RGB or hex codes. So, you know, if you use 127, 127, 127, for RGB, or you use 707F7F for the hex code, this is going to be the same exact color every time. There's just two different ways of doing it. Yeah, so I don't want you to worry that it's like a different shade or anything like that. It's the same exact color. The next thing I want to talk about is opacity. Now, this is KPMG blue right here, with different opacities. So this is 100% solid or 100% opaque, and since it has the white background, that's why it looks like this over time. So it's 90% opaque, 80, 70, 60. And you can see this is the same exact RGB color, the same exact hex code across all of these, but the one difference is how opaque it is. And this will really be important when you're using images and you're using text over images, and you want the text to really stand out, because you're going to have to use like a darker background to do those sorts of things. So, and we'll look at that here in a second, but just be aware, it's something you can change. I've seen it on Wix, so I know you can change it for sure on their website. If it's transparency, it's just going to be the same thing, just reversed. So 100% transparent, you won't see it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it as far as RGB hex codes and opacity. Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, cool. So I also just want to let everybody know that all the tools I have in these different sections, I'm going to put them in a PDF and have links to them that we're going to send out to everybody. So don't worry about writing these down or anything like that. Everyone's going to get this information. But I just want you to see what you can do with some of these tools. So for instance, Open Color. So when you come to Open Color's website, this is the front page. This is a home page. And so you can see like they have all the main colors listed here, and you can see that just the different shades, and they list the hex code for them. And again, this hex code on any device is going to be the same exact color everywhere. But if you're looking for ideas, or you're looking for a different shade or anything like that, this would be a good website to use. Also, this tint and shade generator website, I'm going to have a link to that, so you can, so this is, let me see. So this is a green color that I really like, and that just looks like this. So this is the actual color, but what they'll do is they'll make it 10% darker or 10% lighter. And so, like for instance, if you wanted to have a link or something, that the font was normally this color, and you wanted to make it clear when somebody hovers over it that it is in fact a link, you can make it this color when somebody hovers over it, so that they'll see the subtle difference. Things like that, or use it for different buttons. And this is a really good one. So this website is for color contrast. So what you do right here, you have the text color, and this is just going to say this. You don't put any of this content right here. And then you actually select the back color as well, and it'll give you a rating on how compatible those two colors are together as far as contrast goes. And so just to show you an example, and it'll change in real time. So you can see it gets better and better, and then it gets worse, and then it's harder to read. And again, let me see. So it's really the closer you get to the actual color of the font, the worse it's going to be to read. And so if you just wanted to check anything like that, it'd be really helpful just to come here and put in whatever color text you're using to just make sure it's extremely legible for your users. So yeah, it's a really good tool for that. Okay. So the next thing I'll talk about is images and icons, mostly images. So first thing I'd like to say about images is please don't Google image stuff and just copy and paste those images into your website. This stuff right here, it's all pretty low quality. Not even just like the pixels, but it has all these watermarks on it and things like that. So definitely don't use anything like this on your website because it's just not going to look professional. So anytime you're looking at images, you always want to use a high quality image. Um, so I mean, obviously, if you look between these two sets of photos, like this one looks amazing compared to these ones. Yeah, so definitely always high quality. And I'll go over like where to find images and stuff like that at the end of this part. Um, okay. Now this is an interesting set of photos right here. It probably doesn't look, like they're very different. I mean, you can see some pixels over here, but other than that, like the cat looks the same, the stump looks the same, everything looks pretty good. But the big difference is that this one loads 7 times faster than this one. And the reason is because the quality of the photo, the yeah. So this is the original photo on the left. So there's a website you can use, and then I'll show you, or I'll provide a link to. So you can upload a photo to it and take it down to varying qualities. And like, so for instance, you can do, take it to 10%, and it reduced it by 89%. But you look at the size, 1.2 megabytes versus 170 kilobytes. It's actually a pretty big difference. But is the user really getting, much of a different experience? Probably not. So I would definitely probably go with this photo. It'll load faster for the user, and that counts for a lot. I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's like, if your website doesn't load in 3 or 4 seconds, then 80% of people are going to hit the back button. So when you're using something like Wix, I think they already go ahead and compress the photos and the quality of them for you. I can't imagine everybody has to do it for them. But you still can probably, if you wanted to make it load even faster, you could probably compress it yourself, just like I've done here. And so you can see what they all look like. Let's see. Okay, so this is the same photo, um, reducing quality by 10% every single time. And so you can see this is 100. This is the original photo. This is a 10. So this is the worst quality, I guess you'd say. But again, like, unless, you're trying to sell a cat or something, I mean, I don't really think it's all that crucial that you have the highest quality image possible. It's really not going to make that big of a difference to your users. And they're not going to, like, you use images mostly to support your content on your website, not to really stand out like as their own. And so you probably don't want to call, a lot of attention to your images anyways, but you just want to make sure they look clean enough, and they're not going to be distracting, and this does a good job of that. So this is what I was talking about earlier when I was discussing opacity. So often, like, you'll see somebody will do a carousel, or they'll do a jumbotron, or whatever you want to call it, and they'll have an image in there, and then they just want to put text on it because you've seen a ton of websites, they all do this kind of stuff, but it doesn't feel right, like when you're looking at it. And the reason is because the contrast is not that great right here. It's kind of difficult to read. And so what people do is they'll put a block over it and change the opacity, to whatever they want, to where the image still shows up clear enough, but it's not competing for attention with the legibility of this content right here. So definitely keep this in mind. If you just throw an image into your slider on Wix, it's probably going to look just like this. Unless they automatically have shadows on it or anything like that. And just be aware that you can change that stuff yourself. You can add, you can insert a text, insert a rectangle shape, and make it black, and then you can make the opacity 70% or something, and put it on top of the photo, and see what it looks like. A lot of this stuff, it's going to be guess and check. I don't know what this stuff looks like until I do it. and you'll go through the same thing. So for images, Unsplash is the #1 source that I highly recommend to everyone here. So their images, they're free to use, and they're extremely high quality. So if you use Getty Images or anything like that, or even some other websites, you have to pay. I don't know how much it is to download like a certain quality of an image. These ones, they're super high quality. They're free. Let me see. So you can see this is a really good image. It's been downloaded 96,000 times. And yeah, so this website, it's really good for finding good photos. The other cool thing about Unsplash is that when you're looking at photos in Wix, they have a plugin or like a little button that says, Wix photos, and then they have Unsplash photos. So you can actually pull Unsplash photos directly from the plugin within Wix. So you don't have to go to Unsplash's website, find the photo you're looking for, download it, and then upload it to Wix. You can just do it right there from their Wix portal, which is pretty cool. So next we'll look at some icons. So something about icons, they should never stand alone. They should not be like the front and center of your content. They shouldn't be, the main point. They should just be, they should support the content that is the most important that you already have there. So for instance, you can see how Insperity does it right here. They have these little icons, that kind of help describe what this content is probably about, but they're not front and center. Like it's not really distracting from what they actually want you to know. And and you can see how Calibra does the same thing right here. It kind of just enhances the user experience. It's just more pleasant to look at, honestly. And like if this were just text, that wouldn't be that interesting. But it does look better with these little icons in here. And so you'll use them for things like this, and definitely like this. But it's good to use them like if you're going to make a list of something on your website. And yeah, and for just different blurbs like this, for different services you might offer. So yeah, just don't get carried away with these icons and use them all over the place, because then that'll just ruin their appeal on your website and they won't look as good. Here's another good one. So Stripe, I'm guessing these are custom icons, but you can see like even them, they're small, they're not taking up a lot of space. They're just supporting, well, one, they're supporting the content and kind of describing a little bit what the content's about, but it's also reinforcing their brand because this is all the same color. It's the same look and feel. And so it looks great on their website and it's really nice to look at, honestly. And this is a different page on their website, but how I was describing, if you're going to make a list of something, you can see there's check marks next to all these little features right here, and which is just, if they just listed out the features with bullets, I mean, that's okay, I guess, but it just adds a little more style, I guess, and it just looks a little better. Okay, and so now we will talk about call to actions or CTAs and conversions on your website. Now, as I was describing earlier, the CTA, the call to action, is you're literally asking your user to do something, and it can be anything. You're asking them for their email address, to buy something, to donate something, anything that you're just asking them to do is a CTA. And what you want to do is you want to make them stand out. You don't want to just hide them within your content. That wouldn't really be very effective. So you can see right here, and this is probably how most nonprofits do this. most of them, I think, have a donate button up in their main menu, but you can see it doesn't blend in with the other links in their main menu. It stands out, so it grabs your attention more than these links will. So as you're Z-scanning through this website, when you land on the page, you're instantly going to see this donate button, and you're going to know how to donate. There it is, right in your face. And they also have a different call to action here for signing up to host a food drive. And you can see they use this bright color, reddish orange right here to grab your attention. They have these arrows pointing at it, so it really stands out, and does a great job for a CTA. And again, there's another call to action right here for donating. And what I like about this, other than the sense of urgency that they create right here, they already have it pre-populated with a donation amount. So when you think about people donating or people just using your website, like I said earlier, don't make me think. And so you also don't want people to, you want them to work as least as possible, So if they want to make a donation, it really needs to be the fewest amount of clicks possible that you can do to make that happen. And so right here, like if you were already planning to donate $100, it's already filled out for you. And it's also like suggestive. So if you were only planning on donating 50, maybe you'd see this $100 and think, oh, okay, well, that's what most people donate. So I'll do that too. And I would imagine it would increase your average donation amount if you did that. Another thing that helps out with conversions, first and foremost, is having a professional looking website. If you have a website that has typos in it, that just doesn't look very polished, it's not going to convert a lot of users. And another good way to create more conversions, sorry, a little sick, just getting over it, but yeah. Yeah, so if you have like any partners that perhaps carry more clout than your brand does, it's really good to have their logos on your website, because it's like, it's a reputable endorsement, which counts as social currency in society. It's saying that Accenture and Amazon and BP, like they're all partners of this organization. These are, big players in their respective industries. So that kind of just tells you how official, I guess you'd say, is the Greater Houston Partnership. And if you look at Escher's website, they actually do the same thing. So they have like logos for the Red Cross, the Houston Food Bank, and a bunch of other organizations. So if you're a nonprofit and you're looking for help from Esch, and you go to their website, and let's just say you're just starting your nonprofit, right? And you see on their website that they do work for the Houston Food Bank. I mean, to me, I would say, okay, well, if they can do it, if they can handle the Houston Food Bank, surely they can handle my nonprofit, So that's what that would communicate to me. And also, you might have the opportunity to create a sense of urgency depending on, how you raise funds. You can see the Houston Food Bank. I actually took this snapshot today. So this is a current campaign they're running, I guess through the holidays. And so you can make 3 times the impact. For every $1 you give now helps provide 9 meals, and it usually does 3 meals. And so they're creating this sense of urgency, telling you, if you donate now, you can actually make a bigger impact. So if you wait, this option may not be around, very much longer. So they're creating that sense of urgency to compel you to go ahead and donate today. And this is also what I was talking about not too long ago, pre-selected amounts for donating. So this is NoKidHungry.org's website, and this is the Houston Food Bank. Again, don't make me think, make it clear, make it easy, make it fast. I clicked on the donate button and the main navigation for No Kid Hungry, and this is what it took me to. And you can see there's a one-time already selected, $50 already selected. There's not a whole lot to do except just put in my information. They really take care of everything. And what you really want to do is you want to remove as much friction as possible between your user and them doing whatever you want them to do. And so you can see these organizations do a really good job at that. And yeah, Houston Food Bank, they do the same thing. One-time gift or monthly gift. This one's automatically selected. And it's just real easy to click here rather than click here and then enter in a specific amount. If you do this, you really don't have to think about it all that much. And they probably suggest higher donations than people would automatically put. So that's also helps. Yeah. And this is the cheat sheet that I'm going to send everybody at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to send you this, and I'm also going to send you a PDF with links for all the tools. And this is kind of all the details that I gave, like specific details that I gave throughout the presentation, like using 7 items in your menu. It has stuff like that in here. So, you should be able to just look at this and make changes to your website, or just use it as kind of like a guide while you're building your website. And yeah, you should be all right. And does anybody have any questions? Now, was there anything in this presentation that you wanted to see that you didn't? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If there's anything else you want to learn about in the digital space, please let Esh know, let me know. You can reach out to me at robwdudley@gmail.com. For this presentation, I really didn't have a whole lot of context on what people wanted to learn about. So this just, is the most interesting stuff to me when it comes to websites. So yeah, if you have any, thoughts or anything that you want to learn, just let us know. And yeah, thank you. That's the end of our presentation.
Right. Thank you, Robert. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Until next time. Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.